Albert Breer wrote today in his latest column for Sports Illustrated's MMQB that CJ Stroud has been really impressing the Texans coaches and teammates so far. Breer wrote that the arm talent is obvious and has translated over to the practice fields in May and June. So the Houston Texans like what they've seen from a physicality standpoint from Stroud.
Yeah, Stroud could make all the throws. That was sort of the scouting report on him heading in, and he's not done anything to dispel that notion or cause concern in that. In the practices that I've seen and just the way you hear people talk about him, and that was supposed to be something that was easy for his game was, hey, he's got the ability to make most of the throws, and he can do it pretty accurately. So that one seems, a good checkup on something that's supposed to be good.
Yeah, he's had an NFL arm for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. He really has. I mean, there's zero question about the arm talent with CJ Stroud. He throws a beautiful ball. He plays the position with elegance, with grace. Yeah, he can make just about every throw there is to make on the football field. It's fun to watch. He really is. I mean, the big question with CJ Stroud is between the ears for me. But yeah, the arm talent is absolutely there. Puts good zip on the ball. Throws a nice deep ball. Very, very accurate. I feel like that's the word that we've used, or we've heard used, and maybe we've used as well, most often to describe CJ Stroud. Just accuracy. Pinpoint accuracy with wherever he's trying to put the football. So, yeah, no surprise there, Jake, that the Texans are pretty ecstatic with the arm talent that they've seen from Stroud thus far.
Here's more from Breer's story. Quote, apart from just that, nothing's looked too big for Stroud, which makes sense given the stage at Ohio State. He's shown a high aptitude and isn't starting from zero when it comes to playing in a pro-style offense. And the coaches and front office folks have seen other players, even the vets, gravitating towards Stroud, who's easygoing and comfortable as a leader.
Take that, S2 test. High aptitude. High aptitude. Take that, stupid computer, video game, laptop test.
If you don't think that was planted in there by whoever spoke to Breer on purpose, you're not following the NFL media game that's going on here.
Of course I know it's coming from the Texans. Of course they want to dispel the notion that Stroud can't pick it up.
Also, Albert Breer is a proud Ohio State alum. So if there's ever an opportunity for him to sing the praises of an Ohio State quarterback, because most of them have sucked. In fact, I really think all of them to this point have been huge question marks or have been bad in the NFL. He's going to try and do that here with Stroud.
Did he go to the?
Yeah,
Ohio State?
He's the biggest sore loser of all time when Michigan has kicked the living crap out of Ohio State the last 2 years.
I've never seen that.
That is fun to watch, his misery when Michigan has been able to best Ohio State.
Wow, I've never had much problem watching Ohio State lose. Now I think I'm going to enjoy it even more.
Didn't he drop a dork on somebody?
It's like a Michigan fan. You just called him a dork.
He called Michigan fans dorks because they had the audacity to be excited their team won.
Huh.
God forbid. Big rivalry, and they showed some emotion, Albert.
Interesting bit. The leadership does not surprise me at all. The fact that guys gravitate towards CJ Stroud, I mean, you could kind of tell he had that infectious personality from the moment he was drafted. Really, if you've kept up with college football the last couple of years, you could see that at Ohio State. This guy was a team captain last year. He was a tremendous leader in both years that he was a starter in Columbus. But really from that post-draft press conference that we were at in Kansas City, like when he talked, everyone listened. Like he just has that type of pull when he's in front of a microphone or just when he's in a room. So that type of stuff doesn't surprise me. And oh, by the way, I think I've said this before, and this might upset some Texans fans, but I 100% believe it. Being a quarterback at Ohio State is a bigger deal than being a quarterback for the Houston Texans. It is. Like, I know the NFL is a better league, obviously, and that's the ultimate goal, but Ohio State has more fans, and there's more pressure to be the quarterback at the Ohio State University than there is to be a rookie quarterback playing for the Houston Texans, all right? I wouldn't even take the time to argue that if you feel the opposite way. It is a massive deal. So, Cody, the stage is not going to be too big for CJ Stroud. Like, he's not going to be intimidated by road environments. He's not going to be scared about playing on Sundays, playing against good talent. Like, he's done that type of stuff the last couple of years, and he's dealt with hatred and blowback and fans chanting all sorts of stuff, both his team's fans and other teams' fans. So that type of transition, that's not going to be difficult for CJ Stroud at all.
Yeah, and just because he's picking things up good right now doesn't mean that it's to the level where you can operate a high-level NFL offense. So let's see how it looks when he gets to training camp. You get a little bit more out of this defense. You can put some pads on, and then let's see how those joint practices look here in the next few weeks. Again, it's succeed in what you've been given in the weeks here in the final portion of the offseason, and it seems like Stroud has done that.
Yeah, I guess he's not starting from a zero when it comes to playing from a pro-style offense, but
He kind of is.
like, I think most of CJ Stroud's experience with the pro-style offense has come from coaches away from Ohio State. Like, he's known he's going to be a quarterback in the NFL, and he knew at some point he was going to have to learn a pro-style offense. So I think it's clear and obvious, just based on the reports that we've heard and just based on listening to CJ Stroud, that he didn't come in with a complete zero in terms of knowledge about a pro-style offense. But, Ohio State, there wasn't a lot of pro-style in what they do. There's not a lot of what Brian Day does that's going to be a part of what the Texans do. So that might be a little bit of a reach, and maybe some of the homerism that you were talking about, Jake.
The last part of the story, I think, is the most important aspect of CJ Stroud. Breer writes that another thing that has helped is one specific pre-existing relationship that Stroud had in the Texans building, and that one is with his position coach, Gerard Johnson. Johnson, who got into camp with a handful of teams as a quarterback himself, was one of Stroud's 7-on-7 coaches over the summer of 2019 at the Elite 11 Finals. And that event, Stroud threw 12 touchdown passes without a pick through the 7-on-7 tournament, is where the then teenager stock as a recruit started to blow up. The two bonded through the experience, and 4 years later, that time has eased Stroud's transition into the league. Add to that the know-how of offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick and offensive assistant Shane Day, and there's a good infrastructure around the rookie and good reason to think he'll hit the ground running in late July.
Albert Breer might as well have said being an offensive guy's a young man's game these days, because you've got to be able to identify with these guys coming in, and you got to be able to be forward-thinking and creative. And it feels like more often than not, offense is run by young, creative, forward-thinking guys. Now, I know one of the best offensive minds ever is Andy Reid, and he's an old guy. But Andy Reid's evolved and changed and got with the times. I just think about time after time we've seen like maybe a young guy leave, go somewhere else, get an opportunity, and get replaced by an old guy, and it's like, oh, that's not really working. Or somebody who's kind of stuck in the mud or old school with the way they approach offense. That's what this offensive staff's got to be, forward thinking, and they're coming from that Shanahan tree. They're all young guys for the most part. Like, that's something that excited me. And again, I really feel like CJ Stroud's development is going to be on the back of quarterback coach Gerard Johnson and what he can bring to the table. And Slowick's going to have to install the offense and put it together, but the day in, day out, take it to the next level as a QB, it's going to be up to Gerard Johnson making something happen.
You said Stroud and Johnson were pretty much attached at the hip during minicamp last week.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to have to continue, even before late July. I think I talked about this a little bit on Friday. Look, CJ Stroud's going to keep working. He's not going to take 2 months off and pull a Kyler Murray and go play Call of Duty and not care about football at all. He's going to put the work in, and I think a lot of that should be with Gerard Johnson. It really should be. Making sure, and some with Bobby Slowick too, making sure he's got a good grasp on the playbook, making sure he understands the verbiage, making sure he understands the mental side of the game. Because I think that's going to be the toughest transition for CJ Stroud. I really do. You can knock the S2 test all you want, but it's between the ears that's going to determine whether or not CJ Stroud is going to be a successful quarterback in this league. He's got the arm talent. He's enough of an athlete. I mean, he's not going to get confused with Lamar Jackson from a dual threat ability, but he's enough of an athlete to where, okay, he can use that to his ability. I think he proved that in the playoff game against Georgia a few months ago. But between the ears and just making sure he's doing whatever he possibly can to make sure that mental change is not too much for him to overcome in a relatively short span going from the draft to the start of the NFL season. That's going to be the big thing. The coaches obviously play a huge part in that, but CJ Stroud himself is going to play a huge part in that, making sure he's putting in the work so he's ready to go from that standpoint.
I mean, this coaching staff has no credibility. They have no experience ever coaching up a young quarterback, and they have no experience actually calling plays for anyone. Bobby Slowick's the first-time coordinator. D'Amico Ryan's the first-time head coach with a background on defense. I have no idea what Shane Day is as an offensive assistant. I have no idea what Gerard Johnson is as a quarterback coach. He's never been in that role before. So, Albert Breer can write that there's a good infrastructure around, but those are the guys that are giving him the information about CJ Stroud, so he's not going to have an actual critical lens about it. We don't know. These guys could end up being awesome, or they could stink, and if they stink, the Texans open themselves, if Stroud stinks, really, the Texans open themselves up to criticism because we're going to be questioning, you had a rookie coach, a rookie quarterback, a first-time play caller and you have no one with real experience coaching him up, that's a problem if Stroud struggles.
Agreed.
Real quick, before we get to winners and losers, want to give a big shout-out. 3 listeners I met over the weekend at a wedding I attended. Eric, Carlos, and Tommy. Shout out to those 3. They came up to me, big fans of the show. They listen to us on the radio and watch us on YouTube. So shout out to you, Eric, Carlos, and Tommy. Winners and losers is coming up next. Who won? Who lost the sports weekend that was? It's the Wheelhouse here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Hey, everyone. Big thanks for watching this clip from our radio show, and thank you for making the Wheelhouse the most viewed Houston sports show on YouTube. If you like our show, then make sure you subscribe to my channel for daily clips from the show. And, of course, you can listen to all 4 hours of the Wheelhouse each and every day on ESPN 97.5 FM or 92.5 FM from 3 to 7 every afternoon.